Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Bhajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiara Banachari Yamuna Tiara Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Bhajana Ranjana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiara Banachari Yamuna Tiara Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Bhajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiara Banachari Yamuna Tiara Banachari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya So today we will be discussing the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 4th canto, the 24th chapter, the 4th verse. I'm sorry, the 20th verse. Just checking. Who's read the 13th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam? No one? That's good. I've asked before, has anyone read the 19th chapter of Bhagavad Gita? People raise their hand. Which really means they read none of it. Okay, are we ready? We'll do it word for word, one word at a time first. Sa samudram upa vistirnam apasyan samahat sarab mahanmana eva svacham prasana salila sayam sa samudra upavistirnam apasyam samahat saraha mahanmana eva svacham prasana salila sayam sa samudra upavistirnam upasyan sumahat saraha mahanmana eva svacham prasana salilasyayam sa samudram upavistirnam upasyan samahat saraha mahan mana evas vacham prasana salila sayam. Repeat. Word for word meanings. Sasamudram, almost near the ocean. Upa, more or less. Vistirnam, very wide and long. Apasyan, they saw. Sumahat, very great. Sadahab, reservoir of water. Mahat, great soul. Manaha, mind. Eva, like. Acham, clear. Prasana, joyful. Salila, water. Asayam, taken shelter of. Remember those words. We'll come back to that later. Translation. While traveling, the Prachetas happened to see a great reservoir of water, which seemed almost as big as the ocean. The water of this lake was so calm and quiet that it seemed like the mind of a great soul, and its inhabitants, the aquatics, appeared to be very peaceful and happy to be under the protection of such a watery resource. We'll repeat that together. While traveling, the Prachetas happened to see a great reservoir of water, which seemed almost as big as the ocean. The water of this lake was so calm and quiet that it seemed like the mind of a great soul. And its inhabitants, the aquatics, appeared very peaceful and happy to be under the protection of such a watery reservoir. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The word samudra means near the sea. The reservoir of water was like a bay, for it was not very far from the sea. The word upa, meaning more or less, is used in many ways. More or less, right? As in the word upapati, which indicates a husband, more or less. That is to say, a lover who is acting like a husband. Is there a problem with that? Sometimes the upapati acts like a husband today, but tomorrow they don't choose to. So, upa means greater or smaller. Consequently, all the points, the reservoir of water, was seen by the Prachetas while they were traveling, was actually a large bay or lake. And unlike the sea or ocean, which has turbulent waves, this reservoir was very calm and quiet. Indeed, the water was so clear that it seemed like the mind of a great soul. There may be many great souls. Jnanis, yogis, and bhaktas, or pure devotees, are also called great souls, but they are very rarely found. Remember that point. One can find many great souls amongst yogis and jnanis, but a truly great soul, a pure devotee of the Lord, who is fully surrendered to the Lord, is rarely found. Sa mahatmasu durlabha. A devotee's mind is always calm, quiet, and desireless because he is always anabilasita sunyam, having no desire other than to serve Krishna as his personal servant, friend, father, mother, or conjugal lover. Due to his association with Krishna, a devotee is very calm and always very calm and cool. It is also significant that within that reservoir, all the aquatics were also very calm and quiet. Because the disciples of a devotee have taken shelter of a great soul, they become very calm and quiet and are not agitated by the waves of the material world. The material world is often described as the ocean of nescience. In such an ocean, everything is agitated. The mind of the great devotee is also like an ocean or a very large lake, but there is no agitation. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 2:41, Vyavasatmika buddhir eke kuru nandanaha. Those who are fixed in the devotional service of the Lord are not agitated by anything. It is also stated in Bhagavad Gita 6:22, Yasmin sitona dekana gurunapi vichalyate. Even if he suffers some reversals in life, a devotee is never agitated. Interesting, how does that happen? Therefore, whoever takes shelter of a great soul or a great devotee becomes pacified. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 19.149, it is stated, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Aiteva Santa. A devotee of Lord Krishna is always peaceful because he has no desire, whereas the yogis, karmis, and jnanis have so many desires to fulfill. One may argue that devotees have desires, for they wish to go back home, back to Godhead. Boy, don't we? But such a devotee does not agitate, such a desire does not agitate the mind. Although he wishes to go back to Godhead, a devotee is satisfied in any condition of life. Consequently, the word mahan manaha is used in this verse to indicate that the reservoir of water was as calm and quiet as the mind of a great devotee. So now I will say a prayer. What was that? Oh, see if you can remember the words to this prayer. Prabhupada, help me. Can you remember that? Prabhupada, help me? Okay. That's the essence of it. So, Kshudi Kirti told me that he would be all ears, which must be, he didn't say he would be all eyes, so I figured he would be listening to it over the internet. And he asked me, what would we be talking about today? And I said, investment strategies. Now we'll explain what that means. You know, in many scriptures, in the Bible, it talks about people go to hell who don't believe in so many things. But if you look at Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains the conditions in the three modes and people who are engaged in devotion. And he talks about each thing with a cost to benefit analysis. This is what it costs to do it. This is what you get in return. Or the cost to value. This is what you do, and this is what you get in return. So this is called the Sankhya, analyzing it to the best of its ability. And like Krishna says in several places of Bhagavad Gita, he says in the 3rd chapter that by deliberate spiritual intelligence, you should analyze how to be free of lust and the proper actions to take. Deliberate means like a jury. They get together and they take in all the facts. They discuss it based on the knowledge, and then they take in action. They don't just blunder into action, not knowing why. Krishna says the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. If a devotee wants Krishna, then he is secure on his path. But if a person doesn't know what he wants, it's obvious he's going to have a hard time getting it, isn't he? How's he going to get it if he doesn't know what he wants, or if it changes on a regular basis? So why the investment strategy in here? Let's analyze a couple of things based on knowledge Krishna gives us. Can you tell me what things they criticize on the internet? What do they criticize on the internet? This is interactive. What do they criticize on the internet? What? More than that? What else? If you check it out, they criticize everything, don't they? Okay, let's look at that on a cost to benefit basis. What is the benefit of getting involved in all that criticism? What's the value? No, there's no value in it. That's not value, that's the false. That's like thinking you have money in the bank. There's no value. So what would be the investment strategy towards all the faults they find on the internet? What would be the best investment strategy? What? Not to invest in it, because the best you can hope is to break even. You get nothing. So the way to do that, if I invest nothing and I get nothing in return, at least I break even. Because if you invest in all of it, you distract yourself from your primary Krishna conscious purpose. You become counterproductive. You might find faults with devotees, and it might have the opportunity cost of diminishing your chance of engaging in Krishna consciousness. So obviously the best you can do with that is you don't invest at all and you get nothing in return, but it's a lot better than a negative result that you can get. Here's another one to look at. Prabhupada says if you're sick, you go in the pharmacy and the medicine is there, correct? So you just go and buy any medicine. Is this correct? Prabhupada says you go to the pharmacist and say, why are you particularly picking some specific medicine? There's so many medicines, why not just give me any medicine? Is that a good strategy? It's true they're all medicines, aren't they? But what do you need to do first? You go to a doctor, because what does the doctor determine? He determines what is your illness and what would be the cure. Of course, you could get some speculative knowledge on the internet and then go buy something in the store, but that may not be a good investment either, would it? So what you have to do with a health condition is find someone who knows about it first, correct? I gave a talk at one home program here, and Shmita Krishna said that what I said went over some of the people's heads. I asked them who knew the difference between capital appreciation stocks, dividend-paying stocks, fixed asset allocations, pride of ownership properties, middle-of-the-road properties, and bread and butter properties. They said they didn't know. And if you don't know and you want to invest, what do you do? What? What do you do? You find someone who knows, right? Now, if this works in the health industry and it works in the financial industry, would this not work spiritually also? Or what, should we just speculate on what Krishna wants and speculate on what's a good financial investment? People do this, what happens? They end up in all kinds of trouble. They're spiritually lost, they're sick, and they're out of money. So we look at some of the things that are being mentioned here that are interesting. The devotee's mind is always calm, quiet, and desireless, having no other desire than to serve Krishna as his personal servant, friend, father, mother, or conjugal lover. The devotee is always very calm and cool. Because the disciples of so how does he get this condition? The mind of the devotee is also like the ocean. There is no agitation. What else does it say here? Those who are fixed in devotional service are not agitated by anything. Even if he suffers some reversals in life, a devotee is never agitated. He is peaceful because he has no desire. How does he get these things? How? To give you a clue, we were talking about it with investment and with health. How do you get the best investment and the best health? What do you find? Someone who what? Someone who knows that field, right? So if you want to become a dedicated devotee of Krishna, what do you find? Just any kind of spiritual master? Does Krishna mention this in Bhagavad Gita? You just randomly find someone on the street, someone who claims things? You got it. He figured it out. This is mentioned in 2 places in Bhagavad Gita. In the 2nd chapter, in the 16th verse, Krishna talks about those who are seers of the truth. This is the Tattvadarshanas. They understand that of the non-existent material world, there's no endurance, and of the eternal, there's no cessation. It doesn't end. And these Tattvadarshanas, those who see God, they've learned this by studying the nature of both. Krishna says again in the 34th verse of the 4th chapter, Tat vidi pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnanivas tatvadarshanaha. One should approach the self-realized spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge to you because he has seen the truth. So what is indicated here in this, we'll have a multiple choice. Does it say in the purport that such a great pure devotee is A, 1 out of every 3 people, B, 1 out of every 10 people, C, 1 out of 100, or D, rarely found? Rarely found, right? So does that mean you take advantage of it later? It's like if you see a kilo of gold and a 50-carat diamond out in the street, you think, I'll have to come back and get that sometime later. Do you think that? No? Wouldn't it be worth coming back later for? But if it's rare, it might be gone, right? If someone says, I'm giving away kilos of gold, would you say, oh, maybe later? So this is even more rare, because if you get some money, you can buy a kilo of gold. If you get some money, can you buy the association of a pure devotee? No. But this may be hard to find. We go all the way to India and go look for the pure devotee, see if they have some books that tell us something about it. Because we're trying to invest in spiritual life. We don't have the proper knowledge, and we don't have the proper investment. The Agyata Sukriti. People ask Prabhupada, but Prabhupada, we don't have any Agyata Sukriti. And Prabhupada says, you get it from me. So if the financial advisor gives you advice and gives you money to invest also, then do you say, well, maybe I'll try someone else? Or do you stick with that? Yes? In those fields, if the doctor is working for you, someone else says, oh, well, I read something on the internet. You should take this medicine. Do you follow that or your own doctor? Someone says, oh, I read on the internet that this certain investment is a good investment. Do you do that, or does the person stick with their own financial advisor that's already been working out well for them? Sometimes people do this. Someone says, oh, you can make a lot more money somewhere else. They take it out of something secure and put it in this risky investment. What happens? Yeah, they get cheated. And then you take it and go back somewhere else? No, if you get cheated, it's gone. So what if we have a self-realized spiritual master? We are growing in Krishna consciousness. And someone else comes along and says, oh, you can get this cheaper somewhere else. You just come to me. I say, you give me your car, I'll sell you a car really cheap. And you give me a few thousand rand and you get a car this size. So if something is already working in any other field, then you don't take it away from there, and particularly in the spiritual life. If we already are connected to Prabhupada and we're learning the things that they do, then we stick with that. That should make obvious sense. If it works in every other field, because which is easier? Say some people who know how the financial market works. Is there going to be more of those than there are of the pure devotees who can give you Krishna consciousness? Is it true? Or is there more pure devotees? Finding the pure devotee is easy, but finding the financial advisor is hard. You have to have some knowledge of what the qualification is. Just like now they tell people you should study Prabhupada's books, know what Shastra is, and then you pick a guru who can guide you in these teachings. Because if you don't know what the teachings are, how do you know someone's guiding you in the teachings or not? So we find this is something very rare. We don't give up this opportunity. And we find that we can learn to do things that we shouldn't be able to do. We get them. And we find this is true about this feeling of peace and ease, even when there's reversed conditions. I remember in 1971, that was during the India-Pakistan war, and the temple then was at the Akash Ganga building. And I would do the evening artik. And one day the air raid sirens went off, and I could see out in the distance, like where those buildings are over there, the Pakistani planes were dropping bombs and they were exploding. And there's something about watching bombs come out of planes and explode. There's something about that that makes you a little uncomfortable. And there's something about it, you know. It's not a peaceful, easy feeling, right, to have that happen. So I used to, after the artik, I would go into Prabhupada's room and I would put the water on Prabhupada's head and give him the flower for the artik. So the day after that, I went in there and Tamal Krishna Swami was there and Yadubara and Vishaka, and Prabhupada was talking with them, and I'm in big anxiety because I'm thinking, those bombs came awfully close yesterday. And I'm in anxiety. All of a sudden, Prabhupada stopped them. He says, just a minute. And he looked up at me, and I can still remember seeing his eyes glaring at me. He said, so everything is all right? And just like that, the anxiety went away. Just like that. It's like if you're out here in the street and you leave your wallet and you turn around. Just like that, it's gone, right? So I said, yesterday, the Prabhupada, I'm all right. And when my mother called, the next day I said, no, I'm safe here with Prabhupada. So even though the material condition was not very safe, because I'm there with Prabhupada, the spiritual condition is safe. Because this makes us realize, like we talked about the Tattvadarsans, they understand that of the material, there's no endurance. Who can tell me the difference between the death rate in India, South Africa, and America? What is the difference? 0. And there's no 0 death rate, it's 100%. Oh, 0 difference. Oh, see, that's why we have to clarify exactly what we mean. There's 0 difference. He doesn't mean that there is 0 death rate. We don't have evidence to support that. I'm sorry. But the death rate is 100%. So does that mean we should live life dangerously? No, it means that we should be careful, because you don't need to make it come any quicker. But when one who knows but of the eternal, there's no cessation. The soul doesn't die when the body dies. I remember when my mother was in her last days, and I would read Bhagavad Gita to her, and I would read the Krishna book to her. Even though she was in a debilitated state, she could get the knowledge. She would say things like, the end is not the end. And she got to do all the legal work for Prabhupada, for the book trust, because she was a trust attorney. So the spiritual knowledge will stay with us, even if our mind is a little off. Because I read her the stories about Indra, and because she was an attorney, Prabhupada told her she was a Kshatriya, because she would fight for the devotees. So they sent someone from the hospice group. My mother said, are you an attorney? And the woman said, no, why? We just read about the Govardhan Leela. And she said, because I need an attorney to go to the courthouse and file a claim against Indra to cease and desist with the rain. And then I need to file a property damage claim against Indra on behalf of the residents of Vrindavan. So she thought she needed to do something about it. So that was a little off, but she remembered that the end is not the end. So all the material things that we have, when we die, do we A, take 100% of what we have with us, B, 50%, C, 25%, or none of it? Which is it? People live till the last minute holding on, but they don't take any with them, do they? So because of that, we're not as scared, because we know the end can come. And if the end comes and we're sheltered by Prabhupada, we don't feel it as dangerous. The same, I was here to try to open the temple in South Africa, and 4 thieves came through the door, 3 with guns and 1 with a crowbar, and they put the gun at my head and said, get under the bed. And the one with the crowbar said, shoot him. And the one with the gun said, no. And I'm thinking, even if he's not a good shot, the gun's at my head. So I said, Krishna, this is it, isn't it? But I knew, because I was there to bring Krishna consciousness to South Africa, and I was serving Prabhupada. Even if they killed me, I was going to be okay. Many people have a sense of impending doom because everything seems okay, but the activities they're doing, just like if a person is a criminal, he thinks he's getting away with it, but in the meantime, they're gathering evidence. So there's this feeling of impending doom because it hasn't come yet, but it's coming. But we're engaged in devotional service. Even if there's a reversal or a dangerous situation, we know because we're serving Krishna. It's like the people who died on the battlefield fighting for Krishna. They're not worried because they know they go back to Godhead for that. So the same way, if we're engaged in Krishna's service, then we get this. And the point here is to follow the pure devotee. Just like with the medical things, do you say, well, I have a different opinion to the doctor? And you go to the financial advisor and say, well, I was told by someone that this would be a good investment. What is it? Well, it's a company they're selling. I'll tell you a good investment. It's the Kshudi coin. If you give me $10,000 for Kshudi coins, I can make $10,000 on your money in one day. You know how I do it? I take your $10,000, I keep the $10,000, and I made $10,000 in one day. People give these kind of investments financially and even spiritually. I've seen people take money out of a very good fund because someone told them they'd make good money somewhere else. And unfortunately, people come along and say, oh, well, you know, we can give you this Krishna consciousness much cheaper. That's like in India, you know, back when the rupee was like 60 to the dollar. Some people pulled up in a car and said, come with us, we'll give you 100 rupees to the dollar. Did I go with them in the car? They're promising me 100 rupees to the dollar. What am I going to get? Killed? I'll probably get killed or I'll get beaten and thrown in the street. They're offering you more than what you're going to get. And this is the same true spiritually. If we already are in contact with the spiritual master and we're getting good Krishna consciousness, do you give that up and go somewhere else based on some random person's speculation? Some random people can tell you almost anything. So we use this deliberate spiritual intelligence in all the activities of life. And of course, it's more important in the spiritual area because it's said there that it's rarely found. So if we already have it, then we need to protect that and keep that. And we have to look at all the other investments of our time in life, because if you lose a little money, you maybe can make it up somewhere else. If you waste 100 hours with crazy things on the internet, can you buy that back? Is the time gone? How much time do we get? We don't get an awful lot when we think about, at most we live 100 years and we sleep a third of that. Is to take care of the body. The body doesn't always respond like we'd like it to. And so we have to be very careful. That's why Krishna uses that, deliberate. People say they're very deliberate. They know just what they're doing. We don't just randomly take actions without knowing. So where are you going? Oh, someone said they're going to a fun party, so I'm driving away with them. Does that sound like a good course? No, we want to know exactly what is going on and where we're going. And in one sense, it's simple. We accept everything favorable for Krishna consciousness, and we reject everything unfavorable. And it's simple, but it's not always easy. But it can be by deliberate spiritual intelligence. But the problem with these books is if we don't read them, we don't know what's inside them. That should be obvious. And we can disseminate this knowledge to other people. And the best use of our time is to do something that solves several purposes at the same time. When I first came to Krishna consciousness, I thought, you know what? I'm going to look in this Bhagavad Gita for a shortcut to becoming Krishna conscious. So what chapter did I find it in? Do you know what the shortcut is? What? Say it louder. Yes, he got it. It's in the end. It's even after where Krishna says, surrender unto me. He says, one who teaches this science to my devotees is the most dear, and never will there be one more dear. For him, devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end, he comes back to me. So when we study these books, do we A, study them to be loyal to Srila Prabhupada, B, do we study them to gain knowledge, so we can use this knowledge in our daily life to improve our Krishna conscious? Number C, do we use this knowledge to help others become Krishna conscious? Is it D, none of the above, or E, all of the above, or C, only, or G, A, B, and C? Which one is it? Yes, see, confused. It's obviously not none of the above. But it's those things, if we're using it to be faithful to serve Prabhupada, figure out how we can direct our life in a positive manner. Because to deliberate, person goes on a jury duty. They give all the facts, and you deliberate on the facts as to what you should do next. And so this is something that we do. We get this knowledge, and we see the actions we're going to take, and we deliberate carefully on what to do next. And at the same time, we're thinking about how we can help others. And we try to take up the verses of the Bhagavad Gita. You know, it doesn't do much to think about how proud we are of where we were born or how many years we've been a devotee when Krishna says things like, one who's not envious but a kind friend to all living entities, who doesn't think himself a proprietor, who is equal in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, who is always tolerant, always satisfied, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence always fixed on me. Which would be a better way of leading our life, like that, or to be proud of who we think we are? My one friend in Laguna Beach says, I may not be much, but I'm all I think about. Don't you know who I think I am? So this shows us that if we have this great opportunity, that we take advantage of it. It's funny, like Kshudi Kirti was talking about how someone was saying, in Vrindavan, some of the people wanted to see Radharani's lotus feet. He says, what's your opinion? He says, well, I don't really have an opinion, but Prabhupada said we shouldn't have that. We shouldn't see them. It's like I said, well, the doctor says you need to take this medicine. What's your opinion? Well, my opinion is I don't need to worry about that. Lots of people think that, and then they die young, right? So if you found the expert in any field, if it's in medicine or finance, is it even more true in spiritual life? Because that's going to be rarely found. If you leave Prabhupada, how easy is it going to be to find another pure devotee who can guide you? It's going to be difficult. So if in the material fields, if you follow the people who already know, say Sachin Tendulkar is going to teach me how to play cricket. He says, well, you hold the bat this way. I said, well, I have my own opinion about this. Do you see how stupid we really look by doing that? So the point is, we don't want to be stupid, and we don't want to be unfortunate. Of all things, we don't want to be unfortunate. We find the expert in any field, you stick with that one. The one man in Vrindavan says, you should buy a property from me, and I'm an attorney. If you need to fight any legal battle, you can hire me. Now, should I have him or should I have my own attorney? Am I going to hire him to sue himself? So we stick with that knowledge, and we follow the people who have the knowledge. People speculate on so many matters, and that isn't where you go. You go to where the real knowledge is, and you follow that knowledge. Is there any questions or comments here? Is that Shruta in the back there? You are here. You are. As to any comment on that? Do we follow just some random person in any field, or do we have our own doctor, our own financial advisor, and our own spiritual master? Which should we do? Take it. I use all the fields because it should be obvious that something is true in one field. In life, do we follow our own doctor, our own financial advisor, and Srila Prabhupada's teachings, or just listen to what random people tell us about medicine, investments, and spiritual life?
Of course, everything is voluntary. One who's intelligent, someone asked Prabhupada, one of the reporters said to Prabhupada, do your disciples do everything you say? And he said, yes, he said, unless they're damn fool.
Oh.
So this is the way of success. Like you said, your investment. You want to make the best investment, you just follow the path of Srila Prabhupada. That's
Yes.
the best investment
Yes.
we can make. And anything we stray from that, of course, is we're a fool.
Yes. I use the other things example because obviously you start speculating on medicine instead of the doctor. It's even more true in spiritual life. But why would it be any different? Am I going to speculate how to play cricket? Let's say they put us out in the cricket field and we speculate how to play. Are we going to do well? No. So it's obvious in that match. Although some devotees do it, the one devotee had left the movement. And unfortunately, I had lost them. But my mother was the trust attorney for so many years. And she wrote a preliminary draft for the book trust. And Prabhupada wrote questions in the margins. And by the questions, they were very technical questions. It shows that he understood what trust law was. Most people could not ask those kind of questions. So the one person left the movement and he went to my mother and said, I thought that you and Prabhupada were wrong about not wanting to centralize everything. And my mother said, no, that was the correct way to do it. You should listen to your spiritual master and to the attorney because they both know more than you do. So, how are you going to argue that the spiritual master, who has also had business training, and the trust attorney did the agreement wrong, but somehow based on what?
When Prabhupada was in Caracas, Venezuela, his
Yes.
secretary was Paramahamsa Swami.
Yes.
And Prabhupada called him into his room and he said, you find out what it would take to buy Mercedes-Benz here and ship them to India.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, Paramahamsa said, yes, Prabhupada, and he went, and of course he talked to some dealerships and they said, that's not how you would do it. Why would you buy Mercedes-Benz in South America and ship it to India? You buy it in Germany, you could drive across land and bring it to India. So, of course, finally Paramahamsa went back. He went into Prabhupada's room and Prabhupada said, so, what would it cost? And Paramahamsa just repeated what they said and said, well, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't buy them here. You buy them in Germany, and then you could just bring them to India in that way. And he said, and Prabhupada just looked at him and he said, you're superfluous. So Paramahamsa came back to the room and he said, Prabhupada called me superfluous. He said, I don't even know what superfluous means. Superfluous means you have no value at all. You're just useless. So Prabhupada, of course, knew, but he just wanted to show him when spiritual master gives you an order, you just follow the order. You may think it's the most ridiculous thing to do, but that's also a test. He's testing your ability to understand, your ability to follow.
Yes.
So our business is, safest way is to follow spiritual master's order.
And he may have good reasoning. He may be comparing that to somewhere else. But if his question is, what would it cost to buy it here and send it? You might say that we can probably do it cheaper somewhere else, but you still come back with that answer. this is what it would cost. Yeah, and someone asks a question, don't you, especially the spiritual master, don't you answer that question? They'd say that's not the way to do it. I think we're supposed to go to town today, right?
Yeah. Busy morning, yes.
Yes. Unless you're a damn fool. The world's full of fools, though, right?